If you enjoy this story, please remember to like and subscribe.
My hands still shake when I think about what we saw in those Michigan woods. Every creak in my house at night makes my heart beat fast. I worry they finally found me after all these years. You might not believe my story, most adults didn't, but I promise every word is true. I was 14 when I learned monsters are real, and the scariest part is that some of them used to be kids just like us. It happened on a hot, humid Saturday in the summer of 1968. It was one of those gray days where the air felt heavy and dark clouds hung low in the sky, like they were warning us to stay inside. I should have listened. My name is John. I lived in Alger County, Michigan, right next door to Jasmine Kelly. At 13, she wasn't afraid of anything. She could climb, run, and fight better than any boy in our neighborhood. Her dad built her an amazing tree fort about 100 yards into the forest behind their house, a place that was our safe spot at first, but later became our trap. Then there was Eva from across the street. She was only 8 and got scared easily, but she really looked up to Jasmine and always wanted to join our adventures. I was lying on the couch watching TV when I heard someone knock on my screen door. Jasmine and Eva stood on my porch against the gloomy afternoon light. "We're going to the fort today. Want to come?" Jasmine asked, sounding like she knew I'd say yes. "Please, John? We need you with us. Just in case," Eva added, her big eyes showing how nervous she felt, even though she tried to hide it. The sticky weather and my comfortable spot on the couch made me want to stay home. But something about Eva's pleading look changed my mind. Many kids in our neighborhood stayed away from the woods because of stories about bears and wild men. I never believed those stories. With a sigh, I looked at the dark clouds. "Okay, let me turn off the TV." I grabbed my playing cards, then jumped over my porch railing to show off a little. Eva smiled, which made me feel good. I liked being the one who made her feel safe. We walked across Jasmine's yard toward the thin path, each doing our own thing. Eva did perfect ballet twirls, Jasmine skipped ahead with endless energy, and I took big leaps to show how athletic I was. We talked about kid stuff, as sweat formed on our skin in the heavy air. "We're here," Jasmine announced when we reached the huge oak tree with her fort. "Girls first, as always." As Jasmine started climbing, I looked at how well her dad had built the fort. I was a little jealous. The structure was strong and secure, made with treated wood and locked with a heavy padlock on a door that opened from the floor. The windows were placed far from the trunk, making it hard for anyone to climb in. However, I noticed that someone who really wanted to could maybe get to a window from the roof. "My turn," Eva said happily, grabbing the highest rung she could reach before climbing up surprisingly fast. I followed them up, let the trapdoor close behind me, and slid the metal bolt firmly into place. "Your dad built this place like it's a military base," I said to Jasmine. "I understand the padlock outside, but why a bolt inside? Why build you a hideout if he's worried about someone breaking in while you're here? Dad always says, hope for good weather, prepare for a storm, because things change when you least." Jasmine stopped, suddenly, putting her finger to her lips to signal silence. She crawled carefully toward the window facing deeper into the forest, and gasped. "What is it?" Eva whispered, fear creeping into her voice. I pushed past Eva and pressed against Jasmine, desperate to see what had scared her. What I saw made my heart freeze. A man stood on the path, if you could even call him that. His strangely shaped head bulged out, way too big for his skinny body. His right eye stuck out between loose folds of pale skin. Yellow, broken teeth stuck out from his mouth like a beaver's, while patches of thin hair hung from his head and chin. Even though it was hot and humid, he wore a heavy flannel shirt and thick jeans. Worst of all was what he carried. A rotting, dead wolverine hanging from one twisted hand, while he hummed a strange tune that gave me goosebumps. As we stared in horror, trying to understand what we were seeing, his bulging eye looked up and locked onto our frozen faces. He made a growling sound no human should make, dropped the dead animal, and ran toward our tree. Jasmine screamed. Eva screamed too, without even knowing why. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't breathe right. I could only take quick, shallow breaths. The creature reached the stairs and started climbing with scary speed. Without thinking, I jumped to the trapdoor and sat firmly on top of it, frantically waving for the girls to join me. Through their tears and fear, they understood and pressed their weight next to mine. Neither Jasmine nor I had the heart to tell Eva what was below us. We silently hoped that the door was strong enough, the bolt would hold, and our weight would be enough to keep the danger away. 4 violent hits shook the floor, sending us briefly into the air with each loud crash. Then suddenly, quiet. We looked at each other with wide eyes, wet with sweat and fear, too scared to hope. Into that terrible silence came a woman's voice, close enough that we should have understood her words, but nothing she said sounded like any language we knew. Those strange sounds continued until, amazingly, we heard the welcome sound of heavy footsteps going down the wooden steps. When we thought he had reached the ground, Jasmine and I carefully went back to the window. Below stood an equally frightening woman, her misshapen head maybe even more swollen, with less hair and the same disturbing features, that showed she was related to the first creature. When the man bent to pick up the rotting animal, she hit his arm hard, as if punishing him for getting distracted. She looked up, showing yellow teeth in an angry snarl before continuing her awkward walk along the path. With one last hateful look in our direction, the man followed, dragging his bad leg behind him. I kept watching out the window while Jasmine comforted Eva, who thankfully still didn't know exactly what had happened outside. After what seemed like forever, I turned to face my friends. "We need to leave. Now." My voice sounded strange even to me, tight and breathless. "Are you crazy?" Jasmine whispered angrily, her arm protectively around Eva's shaking shoulders. "They could be waiting for us anywhere out there. Listen to me, it'll be dark soon. Do you want to walk through these woods at night? Do you want to spend hours stuck in this box, knowing what's out there? Our best chance is right now. They're walking away from our path home, and that woman seemed to want nothing to do with us. She was able to make him leave." "I'm so scared, John," Eva whimpered, trying to stay quiet. "I know, Eva. That's exactly why we need to move now." I straightened up, trying to look brave even though I didn't feel it. "If you two promise to run as fast as you can all the way home, I promise I'll stay behind you. I'll watch our backs the whole way. Deal?" Without waiting for them to answer, I grabbed my cards, unlocked the bolt, and carefully lifted the trapdoor. I climbed down very slowly, looking around at every step. Eva came down next, then Jasmine, who closed and locked the door with shaking hands. Once we were all on the ground, I motioned for the girls to run. Just like I promised, I stayed behind them, looking back often to make sure we weren't being followed. When we finally burst out of the forest into the safety of our neighborhood, our lungs hurt and our legs shook with tiredness and fear. We told our nightmare to our parents, who didn't really believe us, but still called the police and told us never to go back to the forest, which was unnecessary because we never wanted to. The police listened to us, but clearly doubted our story. Their quick search found nothing, and since no one had been hurt, they didn't try very hard. What we described seemed too strange, too much like kids making up stories. Years later, I learned the sad truth behind what we saw. In 1957, a doctor named Harold Graham, who worked with kids whose heads swelled with fluid called hydrocephalus, had tried experimental treatments on children whose brains were pressed by too much fluid, making their skulls grow very large. His unusual medicines caused aggressive behavior changes and brain damage without fixing their condition. On March 24, 1957, 8 of these children, ages 5 to 16, overpowered 2 nurses and escaped into the thick Michigan forest around the facility. Official records listed them as missing, presumed dead, but I know better. What we saw that humid summer day were survivors, the melon heads, as local legends later called them. Somehow, they had learned to live in the forest, staying away from people while finding food in the wild. My mother warned me not to spread our story, afraid it would scare other children, but the memory of those swollen heads, those animal-like growls, and the attack on our safe place stays burned into my mind. I couldn't sleep for weeks afterward. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw that bulging eye and those jagged yellow teeth. Every night sound turned into their strange language, every shadow into their twisted shapes, lurking outside my window. Eventually, fall came, and with it, school started again. Life went back to normal for most people, but not for us. Jasmine never went back to her fort. Her father offered to go with her, but she refused. Within months, he took it down completely. Eva had nightmares for a long time, even though she never actually saw the melon heads. The sounds and our reactions had been enough to plant fear deep in her mind. As for me, I stopped exploring the woods completely. The forest, once a place for adventure and fun, became a forbidden area hiding terrible dangers.